Salutations, everybody. This is Ra, and welcome to another episode of WWE 2K Ideas. So, on this week's episode, I have three ideas that I'm going to talk about. The first one being an idea that one of my colleagues suggested for me. A friend and a colleague, Nathan, suggested this first idea that I'm about to get into right now. So, shout out to him. Now, the first idea involves submissions. Now, you all know how basically when you first get the game, most superstars in the game have the ability to have two finishers. Um, I think only people I think Big E is one of the few that only has one because he only uses the big ending as a finisher. But most of them have two finishers. Now, what this idea was basically entailing is to have not only two finishers, but the ability to assign a submission finisher. Now, right off the bat, you can see guys like Cesaro, AJ Styles, Brock Lesnar, and even a diva like Naomi having this ability to have a submission finisher. Um, but guys like Cesaro and AJ Styles come to mind certifiably because a guy like AJ Styles sometimes finishes a match with Styles Clash. Sometimes he's finishing matches with the phenomenal forearm. But then the other matches he may finish with the calf crusher. He's defeated AJ Styles. AJ Styles defeated AJ Styles. Brett screwed Brett, so I guess it works too. But whatever. No, AJ Styles defeated when in the second match with Jericho, he defeated him with a calf crusher. Um, but it'd be pretty cool to have it where you could have two regular finishers and you could assign a submission finisher. This is kind of like in No Mercy back when certain superstars would have a different finisher for every position. In the 30 seconds that you would have to perform your special move, you could do you could either choose to do a diving finisher, which would be unique if you had your special, a submission finisher, or even a rear grapple, and then you had your regular front special. But some wrestlers even had, like The Rock had, if you did it in time, you would have the people's elbow. You have to go to they have to be prostrate, and you have to go to the head and use the grapple while you have it. Have your special to do the people's elbow. But submission finishes would be a pretty cool feature I would like to see in the game, and I think it's a great idea. Now, to expand upon that idea was how you have the ability to, well, granted you have the resiliency, I think attribute or maybe an ability, but you have resiliency, and if you have resiliency and you have a stored finisher, what you could do is if you're being pinned, let's say someone just hit you with their finisher, you could press triangle instantaneously to kick out of it because you have a stored finisher and the resiliency ability. Now, you would have to use your finisher, of course, that stored finisher. You sacrifice that to kick out of it. And I think you may only be able to do that once in a match. But with submissions, what can happen with this is if you have a submission ability, you you have your opponent in your submission finisher. So you have Chris Jericho, and you have him in the walls of Jericho with a lion tamer, and they're crawling towards the ropes. What you could do is if you have a stored finisher, you could press triangle and pull them back to the center of the ring, which I thought was just pretty awesome. I mean, as soon as my friend said, "Oh, that'd be a great idea," I'm like, "Oh, dude, you gotta let me put that in the video for this week's episode." And I had already had my ideas coming into this week's episode, and this was a last minute addition to it. And my ideas kind of aren't as cool as that one, but I just thought it was a great idea. Now, on to my ideas, which, like I said, kind of pale in comparison to the submission idea, is types of championships. Now, 2K16 brought back the ability to create championships and brought it back in a very good way. I didn't mess with online enough to know if we could defend them online, if we create a championship or not. And online right now, I can't play anyway. I don't have PlayStation Plus, but they brought it back, and I was very welcome to it, as were a lot of us. Also, being able to use the paint tool to create to work with create a championship, I thought it was pretty awesome. But Something that would be pretty outside the box regarding that feature, possibly being in the next game or even future titles. I don't see how they'll put this in the next title, but hopefully is different kinds of championships. Now, I was watching Lucha Underground, and I really like Lucha Underground. And if you all haven't seen it, it's a pretty different, unique product, so I suggest it. But Lucha Underground, they have championships too, but what they have that's rather unique is these medals that wrestlers compete for to get a championship. Now, WWE has the Money in the Bank. They have ladder matches. They have Money in the Bank ladder match. They have the Royal Rumble, and King of the Ring at one point used to be something that would grant a wrestler a championship match. But what Lucha Underground has is these medals, and these medals, the wrestler who wins them all gets to summon Shinron and grant 3 wishes. No, I'm joking. But they win these medals, these Aztec medallions is actually what they're called. And whoever wins them all gets a shot at what they like to call the Gift of the Gods Championship, which is kind of like the secondary singles championship. And then you could relinquish, I guess, the Gift of the Gods Championship to get a shot at their main championship, which is the Lucha Underground Championship. But I was thinking, how about this? Something else I didn't notice that was in the game was the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and that trophy. I'd like to see that is a merit or championship that a person can have in regular exhibition mode. Like you could literally set it vacant to have it or not. It'd be just pretty cool, but you could also make it where you could create different championships. So you could have it where when you create a championship, you could decide if you want it to be a belt, a trophy, or a medallion. I think this would just be so freaking cool. Like, wow, what if I don't want a championship? What if I want my championship to be the next medal? And I could create Kurt Angle, and he could come out with this medal, and I could defend that medal in matches online against other people. I think that'd just be a cool outside of the box feature. And then the second thing would be, you could do trophies. You could have a tournament and put a trophy on the line, or you could have a battle royal, create your own trophy, made from a silhouette of certain poses, kind of like you can for I'm sorry, I had to get out of view here. As you all can see, I'm playing 2K16 in the background. But you could have certain poses for the to set the trophy to stand in. Regular like this, like the Vaudevillains, or John Cena's thing, or what was it, Word Life, like that. I guess that's how it used to be. But create trophies as a championship, create a medal as a championship. But basically, when you're creating a championship, you're not just restricted to belts. So I think that'd be pretty cool. Now, the last feature here is my idea. So basically, I do a lot of work when these games come out. I edit move sets, which I'm really working on now because I think it was earlier this week that I think it was 2K came out with something where they were saying that how last year's game had the biggest roster of any WWE game there ever was, and how they've got a lot of flack about how some of the move sets weren't completely accurate, and that's something that they would like to work on. So basically, they're being a little bit more open to move set submissions. And I'm going to be working on a lot of move sets because that's something that I work on when the games come out first, is the move sets. And I get a starting point, and then I have an ending point. So let's say for like Seth Rollins, I use him as an example. My starting point was all the moves he used in these matches from when he first separated, his first match separate from the Shield, to right before he got injured the last quarter of last year at the live event with the match with Kane. So I'll watch all his matches from that point, when his first match from the Shield, to where he is right there, and I'll just go to town. All his diving moves, I have the leftover moves and things like that. So they're trying to be more open to those submissions to see, okay, this is the most accurate. I think if they just did the way I did it, you know, they'll be able to do it themselves. But that's a lot of time that goes into getting this game out. They have to do it annually, and they don't have that kind of time to put into watching. Especially if they're going to have this roster be bigger than last year's or even the same size. They don't have time to watch 149 plus wrestlers moves or matches from point A to point B. So that said, I do a lot of things involved in this. I'm going to get straight to the point. When I'm doing this work, I come across ideas and I say, it'd be kind of cool to put this person with this person. And I'll do things like I'll do a match if this person's of similar attire, like Luke Harper, do a fatal four with Luke Harper, Undertaker, Dean Ambrose, and whomever else wears a tank top. I can't think of anybody. Or I'll do a match like people who have similar styles that came from the same hometown, or even a similar hometown, like Aiden English versus Kalisto. They both came from Chicago. Like Kalisto actually went to Curie High School. My grandma once worked there. But something I was thinking about was the concept of creating divisions, like a cruiserweight division. You could have the female superstar division. Like literally have like not so much stables where it's like, okay, you have to have Brock Lesnar teamed up with this person, but divisions, like kind of like in WCW Revenge. You got your NWO, 3 tiers of NWO. Your primary members like Kurt, I want to say Kurt Hennig was a primary member, but you had your primary members of Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Hulk Hogan, and then you had the Red and Black NWO, which was Conan. I think the Red and Black was Conan, Kevin Nash, Lex Luger, I think Sting. And then you have your cruiserweights, and then you have your second tier cruiserweights. Well, I was thinking of something like that. Have divisions, because I created a division. Well, in my iPhone, one of my folders for the game, I created the legit division. And the legit division has guys like Vader, Brock Lesnar, Batista, Undertaker, Rick Rude, Haku, people who are known both on the forefront as legit tough guys, and in the backdrop as legit tough guys. Like Rick Rude, I mean, if you see him, if you've seen him, you don't think he's a real tough guy. He's got the effeminate gimmick. He's, shaking his hips and, basically rubbing his body in front of thousands of men and women. So you kind of think, oh, this guy can't be all that tough. I mean, whatever. But Rick Rude has a background in wrestling. You hear it in podcasts. People who wrestle from him say he was pretty legit. He could really fight. Then you got Haku. It's pretty much the Chuck Norris of WWE or wrestling. Some of the stories about him are just classic. Then you got guys like who are known from the forefront. Like everybody universally knows they're tough guys because they've seen it. Like Brock Lesnar is legit. He's fought in UFC, and dare I say, Brock Lesnar, if he was in the UFC now, probably would have. He would have been a force to be reckoned with, because you got to take into account when Brock Lesnar was in UFC the first time, he was not 100%. He still had the diverticulitis or whatever it was called. And his record was, I think, 5-2-3. I think he only won like maybe 3 matches, or won 2 matches and lost 3, maybe 4. But I don't know. I mean, he was booked pretty dominantly. I think he actually had 3 wins, because he beat his first match was, I can't remember, against somebody. And then he beat Randy Couture. He beat Heath Herring. Was Heath Herring, right? And he beat he had 2 matches, I think, with I can't think of the submission guy. Kind of looks like Chris Sabin, but he lost one to him, and he beat him in the other one. But the legit division. So that's my concept. That's my idea. Have divisions. Have it where we could set our own custom divisions. If I want to do all the tough guys here, if I want to do the tank top squad here. If I want to do, I mean, next year's roster should be stacked. I mean, this year's roster for the game should be stacked. I could see people like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode, and maybe Eric Young to a lesser extent, probably being DLC. Maybe even Nakamura, God forbid. I hope he's actually in the game and we don't have to have him as DLC. But if you really think about it, the DLC, they don't want you to have a choice in the matter. They want these people to be, okay, it may suck that they're not in the game by default, but we have to have them. So they're probably going to make people like AJ Styles and Nakamura DLC because they don't want to make it optional for a person. I mean, a guy like Bob Backlund, who a lot of people from younger than me who don't even know who Bob Backlund is, that's a choice. But a guy like Nakamura or AJ Styles, that's a must buy. So, but guys like AJ Styles and Austin Aries, I could create a division, former TNA wrestler, so I could, and if we could do a storyline mode, create storyline comes back, we could have a TNA versus WWE angle with just those guys alone, the 5, 6, 7 guys that WWE has bought from TNA and are now in the WWE. So, 16 minutes in, our conclusion, summary, or whatever, The first idea, again, was submissions as a ability, submission finishers as an ability, and the ability to use your submission finisher or stored finisher whilst using submission finisher you have. In the same vein as you use to kick out with resiliency out of a finisher, use it to pull a wrestler back from the ropes into the center of the ring so you could make them submit easier. The second idea was types of championships, basically now not restricting us to just using championship belts as championships, the ability to use medals, trophies, and championship belts. There's different kinds of championships to compete for. And the last ability I probably went at length and spoke about on the longest, was the ability to create divisions. So, Thursday or Friday next week, I'll have another video up, and let me know what you all thought of these ideas. And something I don't do enough is say subscribe if you're a new viewer, and Twitter thing I still need to get worked out. I have a Twitter, but I haven't been on it in a long time. So that said, thank you for watching, everybody. Once again, leave a like and let me know what you thought about these ideas in the comments. Thanks. Stay tuned.